12. Dangerous types Stoicism warns you about. Protect your mind. Stoic bloom. Have you ever walked away from someone feeling emotionally drained without even understanding why? What if the Stoics, 2,000 years ago, already warned us about these kinds of people, by name, by pattern, by behavior? In this video, we'll uncover the 12 most dangerous types of people Stoicism tells you to avoid if you value your peace, your purpose, and your sanity. Let's begin with the first and one of the most deceptive. Part 1, the flatterer. Beware of the velvet knife. A flatterer isn't always loud. They don't always wear a fake smile. But their praise is not a gift, it's a hook. The Stoics were brutally honest about flattery. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If anyone can prove me wrong, show me. I seek the truth which never harmed anyone." The harm is in staying deceived. And nothing deceives more subtly than praise with an agenda. Flatterers are not interested in your growth. They're interested in your favor. They tell you what you want to hear, not what you need to hear. And slowly they chip away at your judgment. They make you dependent on approval instead of anchored in truth. Seneca warned, "The one who always praises you is your worst enemy." Because when you rely on constant affirmation, you lose the muscle of self-honesty. A Stoic doesn't fear criticism, nor does he crave applause. He pursues what is right, not what is praised. So ask yourself, who in your life always agrees with you? Who never challenges you, never offers a hard truth? They may not be your ally. They may be your velvet knife. If you've encountered this kind of energy before, or if you've ever been the flatterer, we've all been tempted. Share your thoughts in the comments. Like this video if you believe in truth over ego. Share it with someone who deserves honesty, not sugar. And don't forget, subscribe to Stoic Bloom, where we guide your mind, not manipulate it. Stoic Bloom, stay sharp, not soft. Part 2, the complainer, the echo chamber of misery. If the flatterer feeds your ego, the complainer drains your soul. They're the ones who always find a dark cloud, even when the sun is shining. Their coffee is too hot, their boss is too dumb, their life is too unfair, and somehow they're never the cause of their suffering, only the victim of its endless script. The Stoics had a different word for this kind of person: apatheia's enemy, because constant complaining is not an expression of truth. It's the failure to accept truth. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." The complainer, they've forgotten this. They treat life as a courtroom where they're always on trial, defending their helplessness with every sigh and every rant. But Stoicism is not about whining. It's about will. Complaining robs a man of his strength. It delays responsibility and repels solutions. Worse yet, it infects those around them. Misery, like joy, is contagious. A Stoic doesn't ignore pain, but he transforms it. He acknowledges reality, accepts what cannot be changed, and works silently on what can. So the next time you're around someone who's always upset about the weather, the news, their coworkers, or their fate, remember this: listening with compassion is virtuous. Absorbing their worldview is not. Protect your mindset. And if that complainer happens to be you, pause, breathe, and ask the Stoic question: what am I in control of right now? Stoic Bloom. Don't curse the storm. Become the sailor. Part 3, the drama magnet. Chaos in human form. They don't knock when they enter your life. They explode. The drama magnet is the kind of person who walks into a calm room and brings a storm with them. Their relationships are always on the edge. Their stories are always intense. And somehow they're always either the victim or the hero, but never the source of the problem. To them, silence is uncomfortable. Stability, boring. So they manufacture crises. And guess who gets caught in the crossfire? You. The Stoics warned about this with a calm clarity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You always own the option of having no opinion. There is never a need to disturb your peace. But the drama magnet thrives on your reaction, your confusion, your energy." Stoicism tells us don't attend every argument you're invited to. Because not all fires need fighting, some need starving. The drama magnet may not be malicious, but their presence demands your attention. And in the Stoic worldview, attention is sacred. It is the currency of your mind. You can care about people without carrying their chaos. So the next time someone tries to pull you into their emotional circus, step back, breathe, and remember, you are not obligated to perform. If you've ever had to protect your peace from emotional wildfire, hit that like button. Share in the comments how you've learned to walk away, not out of anger, but wisdom. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom for weekly reminders that peace is not passive, it's practiced. And hey, if someone just popped into your head while watching this, you might want to share this video with them. Gently, Stoic Bloom. Drama is optional. Dignity is not. Part 4, the overthinker trapped in a cage of their own thoughts. There's a kind of suffering that doesn't leave bruises. It happens in silence behind calm eyes, and it looks like reflection, but it's really paralysis. This is the world of the overthinker. They're not unwise. Often they're the most insightful in the room. But their wisdom, unchecked, turns inward. Every choice becomes a trap. Every word becomes a worry. Every possibility becomes a prison. Seneca once warned us, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. The overthinker lives in that imagined world, a place where nothing is ever certain and everything might go wrong. But Stoicism doesn't fear thought. It fears wasted thought. Marcus Aurelius urged himself, don't waste what's left of your life in guessing what others are doing and thinking. The overthinker, however, does exactly that. They try to predict, prevent, and perfect every future scenario before acting. In doing so, they betray the very core of Stoic practice, action guided by reason, not frozen by doubt. Epictetus taught that we should focus only on what's within our control. But the overthinker's mind is tangled in everything that isn't. Opinions, outcomes, uncertainties. You don't need to silence your mind, but you must learn to guide it. Overthinking is like rocking in a chair. You're doing something, but going nowhere. A Stoic replaces speculation with clarity and hesitation with motion. So next time you feel trapped in your own thoughts, ask, what can I do now that aligns with virtue? Then do it, calmly, without drama, and without the need to know everything. Stoic Bloom. Think clearly, act cleanly, rest freely. Part 5, the manipulator, the puppet master behind the curtain. They never raise their voice. They don't need to. The manipulator is subtle, calculated, always one step ahead, but never in service of virtue. They twist facts like clay. They smile as they sow confusion. And before you know it, you're no longer acting freely. You're reacting just as they plan. Marcus Aurelius once warned, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. But the manipulator wants to stain your soul with their colors. Fear, guilt, obligation. Not out of care, but control. Stoicism teaches that freedom is not just external, it's internal. A free mind is one that's not enslaved by fear, not swayed by flattery, and not steered by guilt. The manipulator feeds on all three. They tell half-truths, spin narratives, and make you question yourself. They don't attack your body, they infiltrate your decisions. Seneca reminds us, no man is free who is a slave to his emotions. But the manipulator is a master at triggering those emotions and stepping back, watching you unravel yourself. A Stoic response is simple but not easy. see clearly, act justly, walk away when virtue demands it. Do not argue, Tom. Do not plead. Just protect your boundary like a sacred flame. If you've ever untangled yourself from the web of manipulation, drop a below. Your story could free someone else. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom, where your mind is trained, not tricked. Like this video if you believe self-respect is stronger than control. Share it with someone who needs a gentle reminder. You are not a puppet, and you don't need strings to move with strength. Stoic Bloom, detach from control, anchor in character. Part 6, the impulsive one, slave to every whim. They don't pause, they don't reflect, they react. The impulsive one is a whirlwind of decisions made in the heat of the moment, without thought, without aim, without virtue. They follow their anger, their cravings, their fears. And every time they surrender to impulse, they trade long-term peace for short-term relief. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." But the impulsive one is owned by their moods, their urges, their fleeting desires. They mistake motion for progress, excitement for wisdom, and reaction for strength. You'll know them by their patterns, lashing out in anger, overspending in boredom, jumping into relationships or battles they never understood. Their life is a series of sharp turns, followed by quiet regrets. But Stoicism teaches temperance, not repression, but governance. A Stoic doesn't avoid pleasure or fear reaction. They simply choose not to be ruled by them. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, if it's not right, don't do it. If it's not true, don't say it. This clarity is the antidote to impulse. The impulsive one fears the quiet between the trigger and the response. But that pause, that sacred space, is where virtue lives. So when you feel the spark of rage, the pull of desire, or the sting of pride, wait, breathe, choose. Because every moment of pause is a moment of power. And every time you say no to impulse, you say yes to inner strength. Stoic Bloom. Stillness isn't weakness, it's wisdom in motion. Part 7, the victim, master of blame, stranger to responsibility. Some people wear their pain like a badge, not to heal from it, but to be recognized by it. The victim is not someone who has suffered, because suffering is universal. No, the victim is someone who refuses to transcend suffering. They find comfort in being wronged, identity in being wounded. And worst of all, they reject the possibility of change. Life becomes something that happens to them, never something they shape. Every setback is someone else's fault. Every hardship is a sign that the world is unfair, and they, uniquely, have been chosen to suffer. But Stoicism teaches that misfortune is not personal, it is universal. Epictetus reminded us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. The victim rejects this truth. They cling to the illusion that they are powerless, because to be powerful means accepting responsibility, and that to them is too heavy. A Stoic doesn't deny pain, but they refuse to be defined by it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." So how do you deal with the victim? You stay compassionate but firm. You offer a hand, not to carry them, but to help them rise. If they refuse, you let go. Because Stoics walk with those who seek virtue, not sympathy. Have you ever caught yourself slipping into victim mode or helped someone out of it? Share your insight below. We grow stronger through shared perspective. Like this video if you believe resilience is a choice. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom for more reminders that you are not a passenger in life. You are the captain. And share this with someone who might need to remember. Self-pity feels warm, but it's not home. Stoic Bloom. You can't control the storm, but you can rebuild the ship. Part 8. The arrogant intellectual. All mind, no soul. They quote philosophers fluently. They correct everyone. They always have the right answer, yet never the wisdom to use it. The arrogant intellectual worships knowledge, but not virtue. They believe thinking is the end, not the beginning. They look down on others, not with malice, but with condescension cloaked as enlightenment. Their mind is sharp, but their ego is sharper. Marcus Aurelius, one of the wisest emperors in history, never claimed superiority. He wrote humbly, "If someone can show me I'm wrong and prove it with reason, I will gladly change." That's true intelligence, not prideful knowing, but joyful unlearning. The arrogant intellectual misses this entirely. They weaponize wisdom, using it not to elevate others, but to elevate themselves. Every conversation becomes a debate, every disagreement a threat. Their goal is not truth, it's dominance. Stoicism teaches us to live wisely, not merely talk wisely. Epictetus warned, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." But the arrogant intellectual explains everything, except their own behavior. They often hide behind Stoicism itself, quoting Seneca without applying him, praising virtue without practicing it. But knowledge without humility is noise. The Stoic way is quieter. It listens more than it speaks. It doesn't need to prove anything because the proof is in the practice. So when you encounter an arrogant intellectual, don't argue, don't show off, just embody what they've forgotten, that the wisest people are also the most teachable. Stoic bloom, true wisdom echoes in silence. Part 9, the emotionally reckless, when feelings become weapons. They say what they don't mean, they act before they think. They destroy bridges with words they later regret and wonder why they're always surrounded by smoke and ashes. The emotionally reckless person lives like a spark in a forest, easily ignited, impossible to contain. One moment they're calm, the next they're shouting, crying, slamming doors, or sending long, angry texts at 2 a.m. They confuse vulnerability with volatility. But the Stoics taught that emotions are not enemies, they're signals. Seneca said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." And what greater adversity is there than mastering yourself? Emotional recklessness is not strength, it's surrender. It's the inability to sit with discomfort, to breathe through pain, to pause before impact. The emotionally reckless believes that feeling intensely justifies reacting excessively. But a Stoic sees emotion like the ocean, deep, vast, sometimes stormy, yet always deserving of navigation, not abandonment. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "You don't have to turn this into something, it doesn't have to upset you." And that's the key. Between the emotion and the reaction, there is space, and in that space, a Stoic chooses. If you've ever been the emotionally reckless one, remember, Stoicism doesn't ask you to shut down. It invites you to rise above. If this part hit home, let it be your cue to stop reacting and start reclaiming. Like this video if you believe composure is more courageous than rage. Comment below with one moment you wish you had paused before reacting. We all have them. And share this with that one friend who always says, "I'm just being honest," when they're actually just being chaotic. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom, because every emotion is a visitor, but not every visitor should become the king. Stoic Bloom, let your heart feel, but let your reason lead. Part 10, the critic, the spectator who never steps into the arena. They never build, but they always judge. They don't risk, they don't dare, they don't bleed. Yet somehow they always have something to say about those who do. The critic is not someone who gives feedback with care. No, the critic tears down to feel tall. They feed off flaws, mistakes, and imperfections, not because they want better, but because they feel smaller when others rise. Seneca said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." And the critic craves validation through devaluation. What makes them dangerous is their disguise. They sound intelligent, even noble. They say they just want to help or tell it like it is. But truth without kindness is cruelty, and opinions without skin in the game are empty echoes in the void. Stoicism reminds us to walk the walk before we speak. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." The critic does the opposite, arguing about greatness from the safety of the sidelines. They mock effort, belittle ambition, and measure others with standards they don't hold for themselves. So what should the Stoic do? Smile, build anyway, improve anyway, bleed with grace, and rise with silence. Because legacy belongs to those who dared, not to those who merely commented. Stoic bloom. A lion doesn't turn when a dog barks. Part 11, the shapeshifter. Whoever you need me to be. They agree with everyone, adapt to every room, mirror every opinion. They're not consistent, they're convenient, not authentic, but adaptable to a fault. The shapeshifter isn't seeking truth, they're seeking approval, and in doing so, they sacrifice their identity on the altar of social acceptance. Stoicism teaches the opposite. As Epictetus warned, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. But the shapeshifter cannot bear that. Their worst fear isn't being wrong, it's being disliked. They're the chameleon at the table. With friends, they're charming. At work, they're ambitious. In public, they're agreeable. But when alone, they hardly recognize themselves because they've worn too many masks for too long. And that's the trap. The more you bend to fit in, the more you forget who you are. The Stoic mind knows that integrity is not situational. Seneca wrote it by a good character, when established, is not easily overthrown. But the shapeshifter hasn't built character, only camouflage. So how do you deal with one? You don't chase their approval, you don't compete in their performance. You simply anchor yourself in values so deep, no social tide can move you. Because the one who changes faces to please the crowd ends up forgotten by everyone, including themselves. If this description felt uncomfortably familiar, it's okay. Awareness is the first step back to yourself. Share in the comments. What values are non-negotiable for you, no matter the crowd? Like this video if you believe truth matters more than popularity. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom, where we don't wear masks, we wear courage. Stoic Bloom, you don't need to impress the crowd, you need to remember who you are. Part 12, the time waster, the thief of your most precious asset. They don't steal your money, your ideas, or your energy. They steal something far more valuable, your time. The time waster comes disguised in comfort, endless gossip, shallow distractions, impulsive plans, mindless scrolling. They make idleness feel acceptable, even enjoyable. But every moment spent with them is a trade. You give them your life in slices, in exchange for nothing that grows you. Marcus Aurelius warned us with brutal clarity, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. And yet, how many people do we keep in our lives out of habit, guilt, or sheer fear of solitude? How often do we allow interruptions to dominate our priorities simply because we lack the courage to say no? The time waster thrives on your boundaries being blurred. They interrupt your focus with trivia. They drag you into conversations that go nowhere. They treat your attention like it's disposable. Not because they're evil, but because they haven't valued their own time either. A Stoic recognizes this theft. Epictetus reminds us, how long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself? And demanding the best starts with guarding your time as if your soul depended on it, because it does. Respect yourself enough to walk away from noise disguised as company. Stoic bloom, spend your time like gold, because it's the only currency you can't earn back. Final reflection and call to action. You've just explored 12 types of people Stoicism warns us about. 12 traps that silently shape the quality of your inner world. This is not about judgment, it's about clarity. It's about reclaiming your space, your peace, your power. The Stoics didn't live in caves or on mountains. They lived among emperors, politicians, merchants, and fools. But what made them different was this. They chose wisely who they allowed into their minds and hearts. Marcus Aurelius surrounded himself with wisdom, not noise. Seneca mastered stillness in the chaos of Rome. Epictetus taught that freedom begins the moment you stop allowing others to enslave your attention. And now it's your turn. If this video opened your eyes, even just a little, then let it open a door. Step through. Begin filtering your environment. Begin protecting your mind like a temple. If something here resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with a friend who needs more stoicism, less stress. Like the video if your time matters. Comment if one of these personalities hit close to home. And subscribe to Stoic Bloom, because in a world that pulls you in every direction, you need a compass that points inward. We're not here to go viral. We're here to go inward. Stoic Bloom. Choose what you consume, or it will choose who you become.